Hi, this is another Blender lesson. We're going to be looking at displacement with the cycles renderer. And we're looking at version 2.79. So this is the effect that we're going for. We have a displacement mapping, and we're mapping this texture. I have white, gray, and black. And this makes it easier to see what's going on with the displacement. So to get this result, we need this kind of node setup. We need texture coordinates, and we're just using generated. We have mapping, and it's a point map, and we're just going 4, 4, 4. You can see the patterns repeated 4 times. And then we're using the image texture, and then we just use diffuse and connect it to the surface. And here, we're also using the color and changing it to a black and white value, and then we're multiplying by another value, and we use that as displacement. And to get all this to work, you need to go to your render settings. You need to make sure it's on experimental. And I would just leave geometry alone for now. And we'll just go into wireframe so that you can see what I've done here. The cube is not divided like that. I've added a modifier. Let's just remove the modifier. And if we go into edit mode, you can see the number of subdivisions we've included. If we add the modifier subdivision surface, adaptive, it will slice it up some more. Okay, let's take a look at this in rendered mode. And that's with the subdivision surface. If we eliminate the subdivision surface, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look like our original texture map. It does something, but it's not quite right. So really you need to add this subdivision surface and make sure it's on adaptive, and it'll correct the displacement map. And the value setting here is not quite like the Blender internal renderer. This is set to 1, and it doesn't scale it to the size of the object. So if I want it to be bigger, I just have to multiply by a bigger value. And notice it didn't change. I think this is a bug in Blender. So what we have to do is go to wireframe and then go back to rendered. And now you can see that it's scaled it quite a bit more. Okay, if we look at this, there's some artifacts. It's just something we'll have to live with. Okay, and if we multiply this by a negative value, again, the displacement must be generating some kind of cache, and it's not clearing the cache when I change this value. So wireframe and rendered. And now if we get a little bit closer, you can see the bright areas are scaled inwards because of the negative value. One thing to note is the cylinder and the sphere. I've used box as the projection. If I go into rendered mode, if I choose sphere, it doesn't look right. It's got the correct displacement mapping, but the texture mapping is incorrect. So not sure how to deal with this, just leave it as box. Really, if you're using cycles, you're just starting off, ultimately you're going to be using UV wrapping, and you'll wrap it more precisely with the UVs. And same with selecting the cylinder and changing it to tube. Doesn't quite give us what we are looking for. Change it back to box. Again, a box, it's not a correct mapping for a tube. We can see these sections aren't replicated properly along here and along here. And one last thing to look at. Let's look at this one. If you are not getting the displacement and you're getting something else, it's probably because of this displacement method. If it's set to bump, and we go back to wireframe and rendered, if it looks flat, it's because it's set on bump. You need to be set on true. And then again, toggle wireframe and render to clear the cache, and you'll get your displacement map. And that completes this lesson.